My biggest mistake in photography, ignoring shutter speed priority. But this tiny camera forced me to use it and it changed the way I take pictures today. At f16 I will see if I can get something bright just by moving this, just to play with the architecture. The good thing is that at 1/250 of a second, with this kind of sun, I set up my camera at 200 ISO, and like for these pictures, for example, I was at f11, so I have plenty of light to play with. But it's gonna be harder to get a motion blur picture. After getting more interest in the history of photography and paying more attention to the photographers that I like, I was wondering why my photographs look trash. So it motivated to go outside and practice even more, and this is when I got this camera, the Canon QL17GIII, which only have shutter speed priority mode, and since then the way I take pictures is completely different. Let's hunt Korean. They are always sleeping, taking some nap. That's the best time for chasing them. They are like Pokemon, you need to catch them all. I really like the color, like the bright, vibrant yellow and red on the floor, and all the pure white. All right. The good thing with this camera is that, as I told you, I always have an eye on the aperture. So if I'm too tight with the sun, if it's too bright or too dark, I can always switch to the aperture to unlock the automatic mode, which will block me the shutter if I'm too overexposed or too underexposed. So it's always good to have, and as I change it, I can always see the exposure changing with the light measure inside the viewfinder. Found another Pokemon. This one is red, probably a fire type of Pokemon. I just lower my shutter speed a tiny bit and I go to f8, f11 more or less. And I'm good. Let's go to the city. So why did I pick this camera? When I arrived in South Korea, one of my goals was to start film photography, because this market is really easy to reach either for film rolls or cameras in good condition. During my research, I ended up choosing this model. It's known to be reliable, compact and easy to use, which I think was perfect to start. The only problem, it has only shutter speed priority, and I was not used to it, which forced me to use it if I wanted to experience film photography, and this was the game changer. So let me explain how shutter speed priority will help you so much in street photography, as well as it helped me. Missed the opportunity. I went back behind them, it was less interesting, but you know, it's always a thing for street photographer to take the foot of people in the street, because it's easy. I prefer to take pictures of people, but sometimes in this kind of place, like all this kind of color, there is the green on the motorcycle, the green on the roof, the blue, some yellow. I just love Korean street for that, it's so nice. I have to admit, the focus is not always easy to use on this camera. I had someone far away here that was walking, and if someone goes walk in front, that would be like a perfect. I got someone that was running. I don't know if I got it, but I was at 1/250 of a second, so I should be fine. Of course, this talks more to the people who take the same kind of things in pictures. Action in the street, while traveling, or when you want to document something in a rush. If you take pictures of landscape, that's something that will be less interesting for you. Now I have to admit, I use it 90% of the time because I have much better control on my exposure. I always compose with the light and colors, and if I use the aperture priority mode at f8, for example, to have everything sharp, if suddenly I get to something with much more shades, like here, I will end up having a much slower shutter speed, and then everything will be blurred and not on purpose. I think I might have someone that will get there, and I should be fine at this speed. There is a place that you can check here in Euljiro. It's just like in between the video. You can have like a very local barbecue where normally it's only the industries. They are working on like metal things, etc., crafting things. And you can have like a small barbecue in the street, and this is the first time, I think it's because of spring, that I see all Korean waiting in queue to eat there. Yeah, almost 5. So you better get there at like 4 p.m. to eat something, but it's very cool. And I got a picture, I tried to get the slow shutter speed at 1/30 of a second to see if I can get someone moving in between. Might not be the best picture, but I think it works well to show you how looks 1/30 of a second in picture. Some points why you should use shutter speed priority. First, you always have the control of your motion on your pictures. You can either freeze time to be sure you get all the action, or you can lower the shutter speed to play with movement to translate emotion into your pictures. Second, if you need more light, you can slow down your shutter speed until you can't manage it anymore to hold the camera still enough. Third, you are supposed to focus, or at least to let the autofocus do it for you. So the aperture shouldn't be a problem at the end, as long as you know how to focus properly. So it is no problem if it goes down to 1.8. Fourth, it will push you to compose your framing better instead of using f1.8 and blurring everything to hide a background that you can't manage. Tips: you will need to get used to the speed you can shoot with. Personally, I know I can stay still with my Nikon Z6 up to 1/15 of a second, which makes me able to play with people walking. And I know that at 1/250 is a good speed to freeze people walking, and it still use a narrow aperture to have everything in focus outside in most conditions. You're gonna have to gain experience, but you will quickly get it by using it and learn what speed relate to what situation and what emotion. I just saw the Korean smoking there, I had to take a picture. Here the light is much less interesting, so I just need to switch to like 1/30, 1/60 of a second, which is totally fine with film photography, because I feel you need to have like a less performance stabilization, which is your hands. Every time I get pictures at 1/30 of a second or 1/60 of a second, it ends up pretty well if you stand still properly. So let's try this. If I go to 1/60 of a second, I end up at f4, which is probably pretty sharp with this camera. Let's try it. And once again, plenty of colors in Korea. One other thing I like to do with slow shutter speed is to play with the environment. As I said to Thibaut behind the camera, I want to talk about dyed nature, we used to say in French, which is basically things that doesn't move, that you take in pictures. And with this kind of stuff that we have here, like the rusty Korean sign and the garage door with the straight lines, I wanted to try to get something with the slow shutter speed and having like a blurry but still following the lines, which will make something smooth normally. Still on shutter speed priority. I just do the focus properly, at least to get it sharp on the side, and if I go to 1/30 of a second, I should be good. I just need to have like a straight, clean movement, which is harder to get with film camera. In this configuration, there is another photographer here that is using my photo spot that I use for portrait normally. But here, for example, if I want to play with the shallow depth of field, I will just have to increase the shutter speed, and automatically the aperture will increase and let me get something like 1.7 to 2.8, just to get something blurry in the background. So I'm 125, I'm at 1.7, and there is someone behind, so... And this is how I achieve, like if I want to use the aperture at the end, I will just have to increase the shutter speed. That's as simple as that. I think the contrast in this street can be pretty nice because we have like a very bright garage door, and the overall side of the picture is very dark. So I wanted to try to get like maybe 1/15 of a second should be enough if you want to get someone, like the whole area blurred while you are following someone walking. Of Of course, this technique will not be applied to every situation, but I think it's worth to try. How do you work on your own photos? I'll be curious to know how and for what purpose. Otherwise, try to think this way, and maybe you will rethink your way of taking pictures. Tu peux aller plus vite, ça m'arrangerait, je t'avoue. That's not the easiest subject for me. It's supposed to be fast, but she's not fast enough for now. Anyway, might be good. Let's wait. Maybe I will just take a picture like freezing the frame instead. All right. Maybe the In a nutshell, I really think that using shutter speed priority now has helped me so much in never missing pictures. I can switch quickly for every situation. The focus will be done as always, and if I want to play with the aperture, I just know I need to get a slower shutter speed to get the famous F8 and be there. Or in the opposite, increasing the speed and use a shallow depth of field if needed, and so having 1.8 or 2.8, to be honest, will not change drastically the aesthetic of your bokeh. Of course, you can use other technique, but I just wanted to point out this way of taking pictures that I discovered that will give you some restriction in which you could maybe end up being creative. Voilà. Ah, last one. We just finished the roll, and now it's time to go to the lab and give the... Oh no! The red scooter! I wanted something warm, like red, orange. I feel like this is photographer's life, missing every opportunity you can until you have a chance to get something good enough. Well, I'm very curious about it, and I hope you like this small part with me and Thibaut behind the camera, exploring once again Euljiro. If you made it until here, thanks a lot. Don't forget to subscribe. Also, big thanks to Thibaut behind the camera, but don't get used to this quality because I will not have a Thibaut with me every time I take pictures. So don't forget to subscribe and see you next time. Ciao.